Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for the time spent with the committee here today. I just want to stay on this issue of veteran housing and veteran homelessness among veterans for a moment. You said in your opening statement that that you've reduced homelessness among veterans by 33%, and that is not an insignificant number. And I think together we should we should celebrate that a little bit, recognizing as well that there's still a lot of work to be done, because that means of that subset population of veterans in this country, people who serve this country, 67% of them are still without homes. And you mentioned, about President Obama has made this commitment to end veterans' homelessness. And one veteran who's homeless is one too many. Yeah. I remember in November of 2009, I was a private citizen back in my home in Levittown, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, watching the news, and it was being reported that General Shinseki, who was then the Secretary of VA, had articulated this commitment, and he actually put a time frame on it. He said 5 years. This was November 2009, that he would end that the goal was to end veteran homelessness in the United States. And my thought at that point in time is that's a pretty aggressive goal, and I love aggressive goals, but I had some concerns about how we were going to get there as a nation. And in my community, Levittown is a town that was built for veterans returning from World War II and the Korea-era veterans, one of which is my father, many who never would have had that opportunity to own a home had it not been for the VA and for that commitment. But tucked between the city of Philadelphia and the city of Trenton, New Jersey, as it is, housing prices skyrocketed. It was built in the shadow of a steel mill, and so many of that population found themselves over time to be sort of what's described as house rich and cash poor. And so housing prices have gone through the roof. So in addressing this issue in my community, housing costs are very expensive. And then my second concern is that homelessness is but a symptom, I believe, of other problems like substance abuse, problems like behavioral health issues, of which PTSD and TBI. So these veterans are coming back. There is a community right next to my hometown called Bensalem, and this gets to the issue of bringing in private sector solutions. They've proposed a 60-unit or so veteran housing project. The mayor of Bensalem, Joe DiGirolamo, has committed to donate the land. There are private developers involved, and there's an opportunity for us in our community to work with HUD so that you could be the last dollar into the project rather than the first dollar, and let the private sector lead. So I just would like the opportunity to work with you and your undersecretaries on that. But I want to get to another Bucks County issue, because I think this is an issue in housing authorities that other congressional districts and members of Congress are dealing with. And this had to do with a recapture of sweeping of accounts that occurred a couple of years ago, probably before you were appointed secretary. Housing authorities across the country received a letter where Washington wanted to recapture or reclaim reserves in their accounts back to Washington to redistribute for other programs. And the Bucks County Housing Authority, which I'm very proud of, which does a good job, which manages well its housing, which had built up significant reserves and uses those reserves to build new projects, to get individuals in the projects on the road to self-sufficiency. They received this letter, and they were going to lose millions of dollars that they were prepared to reinvest in the community. The housing authority just to the south of us, the city of Philadelphia, it's well known for the problems that they had. They really had no reserves. They had mismanaged their authority. They settled lawsuits unrelated to housing, paid millions and millions in legal fees. And so the message that was sent by HUD is that if you're a well-run housing authority and you've built up cash reserves getting prepared to reinvest in your community, you will be penalized. And the mismanaged housing authorities in this country were really not penalized in that case, because they were going to get the dollars redistributed. I was just wondering if you could comment on what message you think that sends to the housing authorities in many of our congressional districts that are working hard, trying to do a good job in managing and reinvest in the community, so we can get to ending things like veterans' homelessness in this country. What message does that send?
Yeah. On the first issue, I look forward to working with you on the issue of veteran homelessness. On the second issue, we want our public housing authorities to succeed. And so you're right that this predate me a little bit. However, it was a subject, I believe, an IG audit, and that money is being held by HUD, but does belong to the PHAs. we want them to have the resources they need to be successful, and we look forward to working with you and others.
I appreciate that, but the
to get
PHAs
details
could
on
have
it.
reinvested in the communities which were well-managed housing authorities. So I would just ask you to consider that. Thank you, Chair.